Every evening in the small room began not with music, but with the sound of steel. It was a dry, scraping noise, like a blade being dragged across bone. The sound came from the tailoress measuring stick, heavy, old-fashioned, reinforced with metal edges, that her mother pressed against the wall. Not against Liza herself, against her shadow. The lamp was always placed low, so the shadow stretched and distorted, growing wider at the hips, thicker at the shoulders, unforgiving in its exaggerations. Her mother studied it with narrowed eyes, tilting her head as if evaluating a flawed sketch. "Too much," she would whisper. Then came the tearing. Wallpaper peeled away in long, violent strips wherever the shadow offended her sense of proportion. The wall beneath was pale and wounded, scarred with older corrections, ghostly outlines of a child who had once been allowed to be larger. "The world does not forgive extra millimeters," her mother said every time, her voice barely louder than breath. "If you want to become heir, Liza, you must first stop being flesh." Liza stood barefoot on the cold linoleum, arms at her sides, trying not to breathe too deeply. Breathing expanded the ribs. Expansion was failure. In this house, they never ate hot food. Steam was the enemy. Steam softened satin, warped point shoes, introduced moisture into places that demanded control. Soup was served lukewarm, porridge congealed before it reached the spoon. Tea sat untouched until a skin formed on its surface. The silence was broken only by breathing and the sound of joints. Every morning, before school, before the neighbors woke, her mother stretched her on the kitchen table. The table had once belonged to a butcher. Its surface bore deep knife marks that caught at the skin. Liza lay on it like dough, pliant and silent, while her mother pressed knees into hips, forced ankles outward, pulled arms until the shoulders burned. "Pain is just fear leaving the body," her mother said calmly, as if reciting a proverb. Sometimes something inside Liza cracked. Not loudly, not enough to stop the ritual, but enough to make her vision blur. She learned early not to cry. Crying tightened the throat. Tightness ruined lines. The room itself seemed to shrink year by year. It was not large to begin with. A single chamber in a decaying building, its windows overlooking gray rooftops and television antennas. But furniture multiplied as if breeding in the night. The oak wardrobe, massive, dark, inherited from a grandmother whose name was never spoken, dominated one wall. A narrow bed pressed against another. A table, 2 chairs, shelves sagging under old ballet books and yellowed newspapers. Every evening, when the sun sank behind the buildings and the light in the room turned the color of dust, the real ritual began. Her mother gripped the edge of the wardrobe and pulled. The wood groaned, protesting the movement. Her mother's arms trembled, veins standing out sharply beneath thinning skin, but she did not stop. Inch by inch, the wardrobe slid toward the window. Then the table. Then the chairs. Liza stood curled in the corner, hugging her knees, trying to make herself smaller than she already was. She knew better than to help unless asked. This was her mother's task, her devotion. When the furniture was finally arranged, the center of the room was revealed. A perfect square of linoleum, 3 meters by 3 meters. No more, no less. Their island, their stage. In this square, the walls loosened their grip. The ceiling seemed to rise, stretching upward into a mercy that did not exist anywhere else. This space was sacred, untouchable. Here, her mother transformed. She became a mirror, not the passive kind that simply reflects, but an active, punishing mirror. She stood opposite Liza and repeated every movement. Arms, hands, tilt of the head, bend of the spine with frightening precision. She corrected errors before Liza even knew she had made them. A shoulder lifted too high, her mother's shoulder lifted first, exaggerated, grotesque. A foot turned out a fraction too little, her mother's foot twisted sharply, almost violently. Liza learned to read mistakes in her mother's body before they reached her own. "Again," her mother said, rarely raising her voice, and Liza obeyed. They danced without music. Music was a distraction, her mother said. Rhythm came from inside. Timing was blood and bone. Sweat was wiped away immediately. Water was rationed. Breaks were measured in seconds. When exhaustion made Liza's legs tremble uncontrollably, her mother stepped closer, eyes burning with a strange light. "Do you know what separates dancers from girls who like to dance?" she asked once. Liza shook her head. "Survival," her mother said. "And how much of yourself you are willing to spend." Liza nodded. She did not fully understand, but she believed her. She believed her mother about everything. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. It slid through the gap beneath the door with a dry whisper, landing on the floor like a fallen leaf. Liza noticed it first. She froze mid-stretch, heart pounding. They were not used to letters. Her mother picked it up slowly, suspiciously, as if it might bite. The paper was thick, expensive. Gold embossing caught the weak light. The Royal Academy. A closed viewing. An invitation extended once in a generation. Liza felt dizzy. Her legs gave out, and she sat heavily on the floor, hugging herself as if to keep her bones from floating away. Her mother read the letter twice. Then a third time. There was a fee. A contribution required to secure participation. An amount equal to their budget for 2 years. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. That night the furniture was not moved. Her mother did not stretch her, did not measure her shadow, did not speak. She put on her coat and left. Liza sat alone on the bed, staring at the square of untouched linoleum. The room felt wrong without it. Too large, too uncertain. Hours passed. Sometime before dawn, the door opened. Her mother returned. She no longer wore her wedding ring. Her hair, once long, dark, and meticulously braided every morning, was gone. Shorn down to the scalp, uneven in places, as if cut in haste. It made her face look sharper, harder, almost unfamiliar. Without a word, she placed a thick bundle of banknotes on the table. Then she nodded toward the linoleum. Liza stood. She danced until her toes went numb, until the satin of her pointe shoes darkened, until blood seeped from beneath her fingernails, staining the pink fabric the color of sunset. Her mother did not stop her. Her mother watched. The days after the envelope blurred into one continuous motion. Liza stopped distinguishing mornings from evenings. Time reorganized itself around repetitions. Plie, tendu, releve, turn, fall, rise. Sleep came in fragments, shallow and dreamless, interrupted by her mother's voice or the sudden cramp of a muscle refusing to relax. Her mother no longer corrected her with words alone. She used touch. 2 fingers pressed into Liza's lower back, forcing the spine to arch more deeply. A sharp grip on the jaw to lift the chin. Nails digging into the flesh of her thigh, rotating the leg outward beyond comfort, beyond safety. "Your body is lying to you," her mother said. "I will not." Pain became a language. Liza learned its grammar. The difference between a productive burn and a dangerous tearing, between fatigue that could be ignored and pain that demanded adjustment. She cataloged sensations the way other children memorized poems. There was no school anymore. Her mother sent a single letter explaining an extended illness. No one questioned it. The world outside the apartment had always been distant, irrelevant, like a rumor. The kitchen table transformed. Metal brackets were bolted to its sides to anchor resistance bands. The butcher's knife marks were joined by fresh scratches, grooves carved by desperation. At night, when Liza lay on it, staring at the ceiling, she imagined herself as meat once laid out for inspection. Her mother slept less. Sometimes Liza woke to find her standing in the center of the room, barefoot, arms hanging loosely, staring at nothing. Her eyes tracked invisible movements, correcting errors that existed only in her mind. When she noticed Liza watching, she smiled thinly. "I am keeping you safe," she said. From what Liza never asked. The room smelled different now. Rosin dust coated every surface, a fine white film that clung to skin and lungs. Cheap painkillers added a bitter chemical note. The air felt thick, difficult to draw into the chest. The square of linoleum became more crowded. Her mother marked it with chalk, drawing invisible lines, angles of approach, limits of travel. Liza learned where she was allowed to land, where turning became forbidden. 3 meters by 3 meters was generous, her mother insisted. Most people waste space, she said. You would not. Liza practiced fouettes until the world narrowed into a spinning tunnel. The walls blurred. Her mother's reflection moved with her, perfectly synchronized. A second body inhabiting the same space. Sometimes Liza could not tell which movements were hers. When she faltered, her mother's voice snapped like a whip. You re-shrinking, she accused. You re-afraid of filling the space. Liza tried harder. She always tried harder. One evening, Liza collapsed. It was not dramatic. No scream. No sudden break. Her knees simply buckled, and she folded onto the floor, forehead pressing into the linoleum. Her mother stepped over her. Up, she said. Liza tried. Her legs did not respond. For the first time, irritation flickered across her mother's face. Do not embarrass me, she said quietly. Something in Liza shifted then. Not rebellion, not anger, but a dull realization. Embarrassment implied witnesses, implied judgment beyond the room. She forced herself upright. Blood pooled inside her shoes. She felt it with every step, warm and slick. Her mother nodded, satisfied. The week before the viewing dissolved into fever. Her mother began to function as the bar itself. She stood rigid in the center of the room, gripping the wardrobe with one hand, extending the other for Liza to hold. They moved together, mother anchoring, daughter orbiting. Their breathing synchronized. Liza could feel her mother's pulse through their clasped hands. Fast, erratic. You are my only chance, her mother said one night, voice cracking like dry wood. Do you understand that? Liza nodded. Her mother continued, words spilling out as if she had waited years to release them. I gave up everything. My body. My youth. My name. You will justify it. You will make it mean something. Her grip tightened painfully. I would not let you fail. Liza stared at their joined hands. Her mother's skin was thin, translucent, veins dark beneath it. She wondered how long flesh could endure being used as scaffolding for another body. The thought frightened her. She pushed it away. The apartment grew smaller. Or perhaps Liza grew larger inside it, her awareness pressing against the walls. The ceiling seemed lower. The wardrobe loomed closer, its dark surface reflecting distorted fragments of movement. Her mother's voice changed. It lost warmth, lost inflection. Criticism came flat and constant. Every breath evaluated. Every blink scrutinized. You re-wasting air. Your ankle is weak. You hesitate. Why do you hesitate? Liza did not know. She danced until dizziness threatened to pull her under. Until the line between her body and pain dissolved completely. In rare moments of quiet, she studied her mother's face. The love was still there, somewhere. But it was buried beneath something sharper, more focused. A sculptor's gaze. And sculptors, she realized dimly, were not afraid to break stone. The day of the viewing arrived without ceremony. No speeches. No encouragement. Her mother helped her into her coat, fingers efficient, detached. They took the bus in silence, Liza gripping the pole to keep her balance as the city passed by in blurred fragments of gray and brown. The Royal Academy rose from the street like a mausoleum. Marble floors swallowed sound. High ceilings dwarfed the body. Judges sat spaced apart, their faces blank, eyes heavy with experience and boredom. Liza stepped onto the vast stage. The space struck her like a physical blow. There was too much of it. The emptiness stretched in all directions, offering no resistance, no boundary. Her movements felt small, insufficient, exposed. Her legs shook. She began to dance, and failed. Her steps were cautious, abbreviated. Her turns died too soon. The square of linoleum was gone, replaced by an ocean. Panic crept up her spine. Then she saw her mother, standing in the doorway, not watching, moving. Her mother gripped a heavy fire screen near the entrance and began to slide it slowly across the opening. The metal scraped against stone, narrowing the visible space. A boundary. A frame. Liza's chest loosened. She closed her eyes. The linoleum returned. 3 by 3. Safe. Absolute. Her body remembered. She unleashed a series of fouettes so precise, so controlled, that the judges leaned forward unconsciously. The air seemed to still around her. For the first time, space obeyed her. It was a triumph. Applause did not come. There was only a pause, thick, assessing, followed by the soft scrape of a chair leg against marble. One of the judges cleared his throat. Another made a brief note. Liza stood at center stage, chest heaving, sweat cooling rapidly on her skin. Her muscles trembled, still vibrating with the aftershock of movement. She waited for something. Approval, dismissal, instruction, but nothing arrived. Then her mother's hand appeared at the edge of her vision. 2 fingers. A signal. Enough. Liza bowed. The gesture was instinctive, automatic, like breathing. When she straightened, the judges were already standing, gathering papers, speaking quietly among themselves. The performance, it seemed, had ended the moment it ceased to be useful. Backstage smelled of dust and old fabric. Liza leaned against the wall, dizzy with relief. Her legs threatened to give out again, but this time her mother caught her. "Well done," she said. The words were precise, controlled. They did not overflow with pride, but they landed with weight. Liza felt something inside her loosen, a tight knot she had not known she was carrying. She smiled, felt unfamiliar. The chief choreographer approached them an hour later. He was very old, though his posture remained erect, as if held upright by sheer will. His face was thin and parchment-like, deeply lined, with eyes that seemed too sharp for such a fragile frame. He spoke quietly, leaning close to Liza's mother, his voice never rising above a whisper. His gaze flicked occasionally toward Liza, not with admiration, but with interest, the way a scientist looks at a rare specimen. Liza could not hear the words, but she saw her mother's expression change. First, disbelief, then calculation, then something like relief. When the man finally stepped away, her mother nodded once, firmly. "Thank you," she said. The choreographer smiled, thin and bloodless. "Extraordinary resilience," he murmured. "Truly." Liza waited for someone to turn to her, to speak her name, to explain what would happen next. No one did. They rode home in silence. The city seemed different now, less oppressive, almost porous. Liza watched people through the bus window. Couples arguing, children dragging backpacks, an old woman feeding pigeons. All of it felt distant, unreal, like a stage set she was passing through on her way somewhere else. Somewhere better. In her mind, the future unfolded in bright, orderly images. A real studio. Mirrors that reflected honestly without judgment. Teachers who corrected without hurting. A dormitory room shared with other girls who laughed and complained and iced their feet together at night. A life where space was not an enemy. She hugged her bag tightly, afraid the images might spill out and shatter. When they reached the apartment, she rushed ahead, excitement propelling her forward. "We should start packing," she said breathlessly. "They'll want me there soon, right? I'll need—" "Stop," her mother said. The word cut cleanly through the air. Liza froze. Her mother closed the door carefully behind them. Then she did something she had not done in years. She pushed the wardrobe back. All the way, the oak scraped loudly across the floor, reclaiming the center of the room. The table followed. The chairs. One by one, the familiar ritual reversed itself. The square of linoleum disappeared. The room became whole again, crushingly small. Liza stared, confusion blooming into unease. "What are you doing?" she asked. Her mother did not answer. She locked the door. Every lock. The sound echoed sharply. The contract lay on the table. Thick paper. Official stamps. Dense blocks of text. Her mother smoothed it out carefully, aligning the edges with the grain of the wood. She pointed to a signature at the bottom. Her signature. Liza leaned closer, scanning the words. They slid past her, technical and opaque. One phrase caught her eye. Long-term endurance observation program. Her stomach dropped. "What is this?" she whispered. Her mother finally looked at her. There was no anger in her eyes. No cruelty. Only a calm, settled certainty that frightened Liza more than shouting ever could. "They very interested in you," her mother said. "In your capacity to sustain extreme conditions. Physical restriction, repetitive stress, psychological pressure." Liza shook her head, not understanding. "They offered me a choice," her mother continued. "A career for you, or security for me." Her fingers tapped the stack of money now resting beside the contract. It was far thicker than before. "I chose wisely." The words did not make sense. You said," Liza stammered. "The academy, the stage." Her mother sighed, as if disappointed by the question. "You misunderstand," she said. "They do not need you on a stage. They need you where you are most efficient." She gestured around the room. "This is perfect." The truth descended slowly, like a heavy curtain. Liza would not live at the academy. She would not perform. She would not be seen. The program required isolation, controlled space, continuous monitoring, movement without audience, without release. A laboratory, a familiar one. "They will install sensors," her mother explained. "Heart, lungs, joints. They'll pay bonuses for milestones, for endurance, for compliance." Liza's vision blurred. "I do not want this," she said weakly. Her mother tilted her head. "Want?" she repeated. "That was never part of the arrangement." She folded the contract with care, sliding it into a drawer along with the money. "I did not create a masterpiece so strangers could applaud it," she said evenly. "I created it to sustain me." She turned away, already dismissing the conversation. "Now change," she added. "You've rested enough." That night, Liza did not sleep. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the familiar sounds of the building settling around her. Pipes rattled. Someone coughed in a neighboring apartment. A distant siren wailed and faded. The room felt tighter than ever. In the corner, her mother sat at the table, counting money, lips moving silently. The wardrobe loomed like a wall. For the first time, Liza imagined herself growing old in this space. Not as a dancer, not even as a girl, but as a function. A series of measurements. A dataset. Something inside her chest ached. Not sharply, but persistently, like pressure building behind a locked door. Her mother did not look up. "Dance, Liza," she said absently. "Dance until the walls close in completely." They came 3 days later. 2 men and 1 woman, all dressed the same way, neutral colors, soft shoes, no identifying marks. They spoke politely, efficiently, as if entering a hotel room rather than a private life. None of them addressed Liza directly. They measured the apartment first. Laser tools traced red lines across the walls. Devices hummed. Notes were taken. One man knelt to test the linoleum, pressing his thumb into it, observing how quickly it rebounded. "Acceptable elasticity," he said. Liza stood by the bed, arms wrapped around herself. Her mother watched with quiet satisfaction. The installation took a day. Cables were routed neatly along the walls. Small sensors were fixed to the ceiling and corners of the room, blinking softly like watchful eyes. A narrow band was fastened around Liza's chest, another around her thigh. Adhesive patches clung to her skin, cold and impersonal. They hurt less than her mother's hands. That frightened her. A small monitor was mounted near the wardrobe. It displayed numbers that changed constantly: heart rate, oxygen saturation, joint load. Liza stared at it until the figures blurred together. "This will help us understand limits," the woman explained calmly. "Yours, and others like you." "Others?" Liza asked. The woman paused, as if surprised by the sound of her voice. "In time," she said. "The program began immediately." There were no schedules posted, no goals shared. Instructions came through a small speaker mounted high on the wall. A neutral voice directed her movements. Begin sequence. Repeat. Increase rotation. Her mother no longer mirrored her. She sat at the table now, out of the way, watching the monitor more often than her daughter. She asked questions about thresholds, about bonuses, about acceptable failure rates. Sometimes she smiled. Liza danced. The space shrank again. Panels were installed to optimize conditions, reducing the usable area by increments measured in centimeters. 3 meters became 2.8, then 2.6. The room did not protest. It accepted the changes willingly. So did Liza. She adapted without comment, adjusting steps, tightening turns. Her body learned to fold inward, to waste nothing. The monitor rewarded her with stable numbers. Pain lost its urgency. It became ambient like background noise. Something always ached. Something always burned. Liza stopped distinguishing individual sensations. Her body merged into a single throbbing mass of effort. She no longer cried. Crying required too much breath. At night, she dreamed of space. Not wide stages or open skies, but corridors, tubes, places where movement was possible only in one direction. In the dreams, she was very good at it. Her mother rarely spoke to her now. When she did, it was practical. Drink. Faster. They repleased. Praise no longer carried warmth. It functioned like a metric. Weeks passed. Or months. Time was no longer marked by days, but by updates. Endurance threshold increased by 6%. Compliance remains optimal. One evening, Liza faltered. Her vision narrowed. The room tilted. She reached out instinctively, fingers brushing the wardrobe for balance. A sharp tone sounded from the speaker. Correct posture. She tried. Her legs failed. She collapsed onto the linoleum, breath tearing in and out of her chest. The monitor numbers spiked wildly. For a moment, no one spoke. Then her mother stood. She walked over slowly and crouched beside Liza, close enough that Liza could smell the familiar scent of soap and old fabric. Get up, she said softly. I see a knot, Liza whispered. Her mother studied her face carefully, like an appraiser examining a crack in porcelain. You can, she said. You always can. She straightened and stepped back. The speaker chimed. Resume sequence. Liza pushed herself up. Something deep inside her chest screamed, then went quiet. The numbers stabilized. Her mother exhaled, relieved. The space narrowed one final time. The panels moved inward until the available area measured just under 2 meters square. Barely enough for a turn. Liza adjusted. Her fouettes became impossibly tight. Her movements reduced to pure axis and momentum. She no longer traveled. She spun in place endlessly like a fixed point in a system that demanded motion. Her heart struggled. The monitor recorded everything. One night, between sequences, Liza stopped. Not collapsed. Not faltered. Stopped. She stood perfectly still, arms lowered, breathing shallow. The speaker issued a command. She did not move. Her mother looked up sharply. Liza, she said. Liza raised her head. For the first time in years, she met her mother's eyes without searching for approval. I am already air, she said quietly. Her mother frowned, not understanding. Liza took one last, precise turn. Her heart seized mid-rotation. She fell without sound. The monitor shrieked. The numbers scattered, meaningless now. Her mother rushed forward too late, hands hovering uselessly over a body that no longer responded. The speaker went silent. In the end, the room was very still. The panels remained in place. The wardrobe stood unmoved. The linoleum bore faint marks where countless turns had polished it smooth. The data was archived. The program was deemed a success. Her mother received the final payment. She sat alone at the table that night, money stacked neatly before her, the apartment larger now than it had ever been. Too large. For the first time, the walls did not move. They did not need to.